welcome to this special. So, the T20 World Cup has a new winner. It is Australia. They beaten New Zealand by 8 wickets. In the end, it turned out to be a one-sided affair, but not before some absolute magic from Mitchell Marsh, and just before that, in a disappointing way, but nevertheless, Kane Williamson, he played a captain's knock for New Zealand, but it wasn't to be. It was Australia all the way. It started with David Warner's innings and then Mitchell Marsh. He's been good for Australia, and today just played an absolutely brilliant innings to take Australia to victory. What a day and what a match for Australia. In the end, one-sided. Australia were just too powerful on the day.
Yes, Maya, what a great result for Australia. What a great turnaround for Australia, since the last couple of years. Their first World T20 title after losing series to Bangladesh and West Indies, after being the second worst team on win-loss ratio in the last year coming into this World Cup. No one picked Australia as their winner. No one picked Australia as their semi-final spot. But, a great performance by Australia, showing that when it comes to ICC events and the big matches, their temperament, their toughness and their skill is just above anyone else.
Absolutely. So for Australia, they have been in 9 finals so far. Nikhil, we were doing the math. 9 finals so far. 7 in the 50 overs format, in which 5 they won.
Correct.
And now 2 times in the T20 internationals, and now they're already the winners. That's how good they've been. That not only do they get through to the finals, but they end up winning it. And in this format, they've proved yet again that when you're in a final game, it is really Australia who will go in as favourites. That's what we've seen from, once again, from this tournament as well. Because, Nikhil, like you just mentioned, I mean, for Australia, nobody really put them, even in the semi-finals, leave alone the finals and then the winners. If anybody would have been asked whether they predict Australia as the winners going into this tournament, people would have said no. But just the way they've played in this tournament, and Mitchell Marsh, let's talk a little bit about Mitchell Marsh, has been among the runs, and it started with the Caribbean, where he was put in to play at number 3 because Steve Smith wasn't there, David Warner wasn't part of that series, and then has been scoring runs after runs. I think he's got, what, 375 runs across 10 matches in those 2 series in the Caribbean and Bangladesh.
Mitchell Marsh has been Australia's highest scorer in T20I cricket this year. Mitchell Marsh has had a very interesting career. He's been in and out of the side. At one point, some years ago, he was one of the best all-rounders in ODI cricket for Australia. He was absolutely brilliant at the top of the rankings. Then he faded away, but now he is back, and what a statement he's made in one of Australia's greatest matches in history.
Absolutely, and to come good in a final. I mean, pressure situation. We saw with teams collapsing, teams that had been favourites to win this tournament, just not being able to absorb the pressure. But for Mitchell Marsh and for Australia to do it, and do it in style, because I think at one point, midway through the match, Nikhil, you thought 172 is a good score. It's a good score by New Zealand, but Australia chased it down with an over to spare. And at no point did it look like New Zealand could come back.
Yeah, I mean, 170 odd was a decent score, but the way Australia planned their chase, Finch got out early, but Warner, that match-changing partnership of Warner and Mitchell Marsh, 92 runs in just 10 overs, Maya, they didn't give any chance to New Zealand whatsoever to make a comeback. And dew might have been a factor, but more credit to the way Warner and Marsh built their innings. 77 or 50 in a high-pressure match by Marsh is an innings worth in gold.
The other thing being the difference in, we said it was going to come down to the battle of spinners from both sides, and that's where Ish Sodhi just failed today, whereas Adam Zampa controlled those middle overs beautifully against New Zealand.
Absolutely. We said it in our preview show that Zampa has been the higher impact spinner in this tournament. He was again excellent today, very restrictive, just overrun a ball, 1 important wicket. But Sodhi, he went for 40 runs in his 3 overs, Maya. And that was it. I mean, if Sodhi doesn't give you the control in the middle overs and gets the wickets, there is no way New Zealand, can afford to make a comeback in the match. And today Sodhi was targeted, like Stark was targeted by New Zealand, Sodhi was targeted by Australia, and just a bad day for him. Is the only match in which he has not given a high impact performance, and it was the biggest match of the tournament.
And like you mentioned, Mitchell Starc as well. We've got to talk a little bit about Kane Williamson's innings, because that's very unlike Kane Williamson just going all out attacking, but he did that, and a brilliant timing that we saw from him in that innings. But the way he targeted Mitchell Starc, I mean, Mitchell Starc would have nightmares about Kane Williamson going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. He got some 39 runs of 12 deliveries of Starc. I don't think Starc has taken such a beating in his limited overs career from one batsman in an innings. He planned it. He realized that Starc was bowling in an arc with which he could either pick for boundaries or go with the flow and clear the stands. And it worked out well for him today. He also realized that Guptill is not in the best of nicks. He's not getting the big shots today. He was looking a bit patchy today. So Williamson had to play the aggressor today, which is not his normal style. Correct. He usually plays anchor and accumulator. He took the risks, but he took calculated risks. It was a brilliant innings, 85 or 48. It was reminding me of some of the great knocks Virat Kohli played for India over the years in the 2016 World T20 in the semi-finals against the West Indies. Almost a one-sided effort, but West Indies won the match. Similarly for Williamson.
Yeah, though I think we've got to talk also about toss and how that has played a major role. Yet again, you felt like batting became easier, though I think you've also got to give credit to the way Aussies batted. But you just felt that it was far more difficult. And once again, that point of how pacers have done much better bowling in the first innings than in the second. And, something that we've seen throughout the tournament. I mean, I said this before the match as well. As soon as Australia won the toss, I said it's completely going to be Australia's way.
Yeah, it wasn't very wet because we didn't see any towels and rubbing the players, New Zealand players rubbing the ball to make it dry. But I think there was some dew, little bit of dew, and what it does is even little bit of dew, you don't get any swing then in the second half of the match. The ball comes onto the bat nicely. As it is a good batting fresh pitch. So that skews the favor in more, tilts the favor in towards the chasing team, and as it is, the chasing team has an advantage in knockout matches in the World T20 since 2014 and in Dubai. We saw it in the IPL also and this tournament. And that chasing advantage, both the semi-finals and the final, that chasing advantage has now just gone to another level in this tournament.
Yeah, how much would this mean to Mitchell Marsh? To think that he's come so good in a final of a World Cup, and just to, I feel also the management itself, the team and the captain who put him at that place at number 3, consistently now coming into this tournament saying, we're going to give you that position, we're not going to move you around, and for him to pay off that trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mitchell Marsh, he's carrying on the legacy of the great family. His father, Jeff Marsh, was a brilliant Australian opener, and today he'll be so proud what Mitchell Marsh has done. I mean, this, might revive Mitchell Marsh's international career. I think he's a world-class all-rounder, and he should be given a longer run in this Australian team in all 3 formats.
I just feel like between Australia and New Zealand, and I know that, there's a saying that nice guys don't always finish last. And I know that a lot of people would have been rooting for New Zealand just because of how they are as a side, how they approach their game, how their captain carries himself, and how good they've been in the tournament. But it wasn't to be, though at the same time, the credit must be given to Australia for making this turnaround, really. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Not many people believed in Australia. People have written them off. Even before the tournament, they said, nahi kar payegi. But for them to play like this and to win the final.
Absolutely. This is as stunning a win as the West Indies, had it in 2016 when no one gave them a chance. They were very poor in the bilateral series running up. Suddenly, all the players came together in the World T20 and won in 2016 and in 2012. This is similar what Australia has done today. No one gave them a chance. But once the final, and this is an important point, once the final was against New Zealand, Australia is dominating their little neighbor like anything. I mean, now it becomes 17-0, Meha. 17-0. It's not Australia versus Namibia. It is Australia versus New Zealand. 17-0 in all knockouts, Australia, New Zealand. 16-4 in ICC tournaments and 5-0 in ICC knockouts. I mean, this is a bizarre rivalry.
It is a bizarre rivalry, and I don't know whether we can call it that because Australia constantly trumps New Zealand in these tournaments, especially in knockout games. We've seen now that Australia have a perfect record against New Zealand in the World Cups. But Nikhil, just the last thought of the about the heroes of this win. We've already talked about Mitchell Marsh, David Warner. Just a little bit on the others, you know, someone like an Adam Zampa. And throughout this tournament, how good has Adam Zampa been? Again, an unlikely hero, really, in that side for them. Yeah,
for me, the highest impact bowler of the tournament. Every match, a fantastic performance, either picking wickets or being restrictive. A fantastic control of the middle overs. So for me, the highest impact bowler of the tournament, Adam Zampa. Another bowler who also was brilliant today. 4 overs, 16 runs, 3 wickets, 18 dot balls. That's 75% of his deliveries weren't scored off today. Josh Hazlewood.
That's right.
So Josh Hazlewood, their best fast bowler of the tournament by far. Adam Zampa, the best bowler of the tournament. And then, of course, David Warner's revival is one of the primary reasons why Australia has won this trophy. Mitchell Marsh playing 2 or 3 magnificent innings in the tournament. So I think and of course, Matthew Wade's semi-final heroics and Marcus Stoinis' supporting act. So these, I think, 5 or 6 players stand out for Australia. They won this tournament without Stark being at his best, with no contribution from Steven Smith. So, you know, that is a big plus and credit to Australia.
It is credit to the way the team has played, credit to the belief that they've had. Aaron Finch has spoken about it in one of the press conferences where he said, you know what, people may not believe in us, but we believe in ourselves. We don't go talking about it. And here's that belief for everybody to see what it can do. So Australia, the champions of the T20 World Cup 2021, who would have thought? New Zealand, once again, it wasn't to be. They played well till the end. Kane Williamson played a brilliant knock, but in the end, Australia just too good on the day with that brilliant Mitchell Marsh heroics as well. Well, that's it we have for you here from the special. Nikhil Narayan, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. That's it. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.